I mean, this looks like it was directed by the president. Don't you have any qualms about any president telling an attorney general, go after these three political opponents?
I would take issue with that.
I don't know that I'm ever going to get used to the Christians, real heavy air quotes, fat, meaty, juicy air quotes. The Christians like Mike Johnson, the white Christian nationalists like Mike Johnson, White Johnson, that works too, right? I'm never going to get used to them just looking down the barrel of a lens of a camera in a studio and lying while claiming to, with zero credibility, following and adhering to the teachings of their deity, the Son of God, they claim, Jesus the Christ. Because we know that Donald Trump was indicted by several independent grand juries from jurisdictions all over the country, from Manhattan to Florida, here in Washington, D.C., Donald Trump was indicted by grand juries of citizens. That was weaponization, according to MAGA Mike Johnson. Now that James Comey has been indicted by a grand jury, look, this is just the process. This is no problem. It doesn't matter that Donald Trump directed his Pam Bondi, she's not really the attorney general. That's Stephen Miller. So I don't know. I don't know what to call her. The messenger. She's the spokesperson for the Department of Justice. How about that? Directed her, who directed at the time the MAGA-aligned U.S. attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia, who said, there's no evidence here. I'm not going to bring this case. This is just persecution. This isn't a prosecution. This is a persecution. I quit. And Donald Trump said, you can't quit. I fire you. So what did Donald Trump do? He put his personal attorney in the documents case, the 80s Tawny Katane lookalike, the all we need is blue eyeshadow, Lindsay Halligan. And on the first day when she was appointed as the interim U.S. attorney for the Eastern District, she indicted James Comey. And then when they got to court, she's like, well, I didn't write this indictment. She's like, you didn't write the indictment, the judge says. Well, no. Yeah, of course I did. It's all just nonsense. It's Donald Trump directing the persecution of his opponents, his perceived opponents. Because I'll say it again, the only reason Donald Trump was president the first time is because of James Comey. But here's MAGA Mike Johnson trying to make the case that grand juries are good when it's Donald Trump's opponents being indicted, but they were weaponization when it was Biden's DOJ.
Just looking at the principle at stake here, if you can remove Comey and Trump out of the equation, as a constitutional attorney and the Speaker of the House of Representatives, do you believe it's acceptable for any president to publicly or privately instruct their attorney general to prosecute a political opponent and go as far as firing a U.S. attorney if they don't bring charges because they don't think the case is strong enough?
I'm glad you brought up the principle. That is exactly what's at issue here. James Comey lied to Congress. Okay, he took an oath. He said things to Congress that were simply not true. It's called perjury. A grand jury that is not, a nonpartisan, non-biased grand jury that was assembled looked at the charges and they agreed, they voted to bring an indictment of James Comey. Not President Trump, not the DOJ, but a grand jury. That's how our system works. It's a very important principle for us to apply that everybody has to subscribe to the law, even a former FBI director. And he has lots to answer for. There are many things that he could have been indicted for, but the statute of limitations ran out on so many of those matters. Not here. Perjury is important. You can't, especially if you're a high official, appointed or elected official, you cannot raise your hand, take an oath, and lie to Congress. And that's an important principle, Jake, for us to advance.
I mean, I hear what you're saying, but you didn't answer the part about President Trump putting it all out there for everyone to see on Truth Social after pushing out the U.S. attorney, this conservative Eric Siebert. He wrote to Pam Bondi, the attorney general, nothing's being done about Comey, Schiff, and Letitia James, even though they're all, quote, guilty as hell. The president demanded justice must be served now. He mentioned Lindsay Halligan, who is now the acting U.S. attorney. And Bondi clearly got the message. She appointed Halligan U.S. attorney, despite the fact she has no prosecutorial experience. A few days later, Halligan indicted Comey. I mean, this looks like it was directed by the president. As you know, indictments are not convictions. Indictments have to do with a grand jury saying whether or not a case can be brought. It's not a finding of guilt. The defense isn't even allowed to present a case there. Don't you have any qualms about any president telling an attorney general, go after these three political opponents?
I would take issue with that. I don't think that's what he did. But what I have qualms with, Jake, is the total and utter weaponization of the Department of Justice. And Comey was a primary person responsible for that.
This is very much akin to how MAGA Republicans, and again, Christians in the right wing, that they say that God has anointed Donald Trump. It's because God allowed it that Donald Trump is here, and you shouldn't question it because it's the will of God for Donald Trump to be president. But apparently it wasn't the will of God. They weren't speaking, that tune wasn't being whistled when it was Joe Biden as president, or God forbid, the black guy, Barack Obama. They weren't saying that then. Then it's God is punishing us. It's the same nonsense. It's cherry picking bullshit from these liars who don't really have a faith other than defend Donald Trump. That's the true doctrine of their faith. That's the statement of their faith. That's their testimony. Is Donald Trump is the best. We must protect him at all costs. We must allow him to stay in the presidency, in the White House for as long as we can, as long as he can, so he can become as fabulously wealthy as he ever dreamed. Because he's doubled his net worth since becoming president. Billions and billions and billions of dollars in added net worth to Donald Trump, while these Christians who don't believe, I guess, that it's easier for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven than it is for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle. I guess they don't, that's another thing they're cherry picking, I guess. Anyway, I welcome you to this fiery conversation, or what I assume will be. Before you do comment, though, make sure you're subscribed to this channel on YouTube. We are, again, trying to get to 1.5 million subscribers, and I can only do it with your help. Obviously, that's a self-evident statement. You can also follow and like the Facebook page, Dollemore Daily. I would appreciate it very much. Comment below wherever you're watching it, either on Facebook or YouTube. And you can also, give you another option, call me and leave me a voicemail, a brief one, please, 714-576-4054. And of course, as always, you can email me, daily@dollemore.com. If you want to help support this work, produce this work, think about that. Here's an option. Go to patreon.com/IDoubtItPodcast. That's absolutely the best option. They take way less of a cut. Your every dollar you would go to support this would really allow us to grow this operation, hire some staff. There's all kinds of things that I have in mind. All kinds of suggestions from you that I would put into motion. You can also become a channel member on YouTube. Click the join button below the video, and for $2, help produce this work. I will see you next time. I appreciate your consideration. Be genuine and take care of one another.